We are here to discuss a little bit about the Pac-12 Network and what they did in bringing a new facility online in a very accelerated timeline. So my name is Brian Beckwith. I'm a solutions engineer with Imagine Communications. My job is to help build and create the technology package that we'll kind of be talking about today. And I'll let Hieu start by introducing himself.
Hi, my name is Hieu. I work for Pac-12 Network as lead broadcast technology engineer.
Hi, my name is Kumar. I'm with Advanced Systems Group. We were the systems integrations partner with working on the Pac-12 project, and I am a technology specialist.
Hi, and I'm John Mailhot. I'm the CTO of Imagine Communications Infrastructure Division, and really glad to be supporting this today.
Yeah. So part of what we get into when we get into discussions is about how long does it take to get into a system, how long does it take to deploy. John, you're fairly unique in your position that you also sit on the SMPTE board and you've edited the 2110 documents. How are we looking 2110-wise, maturity-wise, and stuff that's still coming through?
Thanks. I love to talk about SMPTE 2110, but by and large, it's finished work. From a standards perspective, it's done. We went through and issued some minor updates last year, but you'll find nothing earth-shattering in those updates. And I really feel like we're in the position now that most new projects of any significant scale or size can look to the 2110 specs and the many, many, many products in the industry that support those specs and confidently put a system together.
Okay, and so as you guys were coming up and designing your system, how did you take that into effect? How did you take that thought into account, and how did you start to prepare your system?
Well, first of all, when we get the timeline where we have to relocate to a new facilities, early on in February of 2022, we have to be ready on air on the 2023 seasons. So that is a very aggressive timeline. So early on, before we select the system integrators, we have to go to spec out the technologies in NAB of 2022. That's when we selecting Imagines as our router core and edge processing.
And as you were going through and making those selections, how did you compare what you were seeing industry-wide to make your selections that your users had the best experience when they get to their production?
Well, first of all, we're looking for the flexibility for our production. So we are basebands from our old facilities. And when we went to NAB and spec out all these new technologies, we have to consult with a lot of our vendors and a lot of our colleagues. And I think 2110 is getting mature and is proven to be ready for our use case. And I think that's the reason why we choose 2110 as our new router.
Okay. And then, so Nick, as part of the integration team, how did you guys approach what you were going to do with the Pac-12?
Yeah, absolutely. So ASG was brought on board as the systems integration partner for this Pac-12 state-of-the-art design and build-out in June of 2022. And very early on, we recognized that this is going to be a complex project, not just from the technology aspect where we had to integrate legacy systems and legacy workflows along with newer SMPTE ST2110 standards and technology, but also from a timeline perspective. As you mentioned, this was a brand new facility that we were moving into, and it was there was a construction process that was involved. So by the time construction was over, we essentially just had a little over 2 months to implement, commission, and stand up the system. So we had to start engaging in conversations with our partners and vendors and understanding Pac-12's vision as to what they were looking for, what their operational requirements are, and being able to specify the the complement of the technology that would help make that possible.
Yeah, and I'm sure in the timeline that we're discussing, the product availability issues of 2022 made everything even harder. How did you work, and how did that key partner decision play into how you dealt with everything?
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's several elements to that, right? So, some of the key core decisions in terms of what vendors and to partner up with had already been established by Pac-12 before ASG was brought on board. So that was a big plus. But one of the things that we had done earlier on was propose a plan to build out something what we call a pre-commissioning lab, where we partnered up with various vendors, including Imagine Communications, and stand up a small-scale system at Pac-12's old facility. This way, we had the opportunity to evaluate and gauge the system's conformance not only to the 2110 set of standards, but also how well they would comply within the confines of Pac-12's operational workflows. So the lessons we learned from that exercise, we were able to apply that and to ensure that there weren't any major obstacles in the critical path of the project.
And so as you were standing up the, for lack of a better term, proof of concept, even though it's not really a proof of concept, as you're standing up that and testing it out, how did that affect the ability to help define the user interface and push your timeline forward with a short install window?
Well, like I mentioned, I mean, yes, it is definitely a proof of concept, not necessarily a proof of concept that we are used to talking about. It's more of a proof of concept from an operational perspective, right? So being able to, test a lot of these systems and work collaboratively with Pac-12 and, make sure that the user interface was workable. Because one of the big things was we also wanted to get Pac-12 more comfortable with the technology and more comfortable with the user interfaces, because ultimately they're the end users. And we basically helped steer that process in helping making some crucial decisions early on to get our vendor selections picked out.
Yeah, and I just have to commend that aspect of the activity. We get involved in projects where it starts with an RFP of a bunch of, system shall do X, Y, Z, and it's 50 pages. And then you eventually put the real end user in front of it, and they didn't want half those things. And they wanted other things that weren't on that list, and you're in a big rework thing. So that aspect of going through it at a small scale with the end customer is critical.
Yep.
And then as all of this is happening, that has created how your users have interfaced and done their production. You're 4 months into production now in your new facility. How is the individual person taken to using?
Well, 4 months in, and our system is pretty stable and reliable, and thanks to our amazing engineer team, embrace these new technologies. And, any system out there with baseband or 2110, problems will come up one way or another with different issue, with different vendors. But, our engineer team have, ability to address it as things come up. We have finished our first football season with our 2110 system and have been flawless. Now we transition into a basketball.
So I think one of the big things for many years is everyone's been, are we at that point of as simple as, plugging an SDI cable into the back of something to make something work? Has your engineering team had, how they noticed how every company, whether it's, whoever it is, how they're interacting with each other and how they come together to form your system?
Well, I mean, this is 21's system. The workflow definitely changed from the basebands. So there's a lot of monitoring tool that we apply into our system so that our engineer be able to come in daily to monitor all the network traffic of 2110 anything that MOS related, so that they be able to have a tool to monitor it and to address any issue come up.
So with how they're developing their workflow, have you had any real, discussions or ideas of there not being able to do something that they had been?
No, I mean, they really, really embrace technology, and they really, they really, I would say that they really know how to monitor a system and how to address any issue, and it's just day-to-day learning curve for them as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, and also, if I may add, kudos to Hieu's management in spearheading the project, from his side along with his engineering team. They've embraced the technology, and it's great to work with customers that are passionate about the technology, not just the project, but also being fully vested in not just learning, but also making every effort to meet the end goal. And just like with any system, as Hieu mentioned, there's going to be issues, and we certainly ran into our fair share of issues. Some were more technically complex than others, but with our collective deep subject matter expertise, we were able to diagnose root causes and meaningfully communicate that with the vendors, so that they could help resolve issues.
So we're getting down to the final couple of minutes here. John, what are your kind of final thoughts as we wrap up?
It's been great to work on this stuff for the last 10 years. I started working on these IP transition projects literally 10 years ago. 2013 was kind of the beginning of COTS-based, networks used to do HD, UHD, so forth. The standards came along, the practices are out there. It's great to see it in a state that you can now stand up and finish projects where the 2110 part's not even the interesting part. It's pretty much the standard practice in large projects. And I'm really thankful that we've reached this state of technical maturity with 2110, with NMOS and so forth, that you can build and deliver a project as an integrator in a predictable amount of time at a predictable budget.
Nick, what are your final thoughts on?
Yeah, so look, the project was a success, right? We were able to successfully meet the on-air date, tirelessly working with the Pac-12, Hieu especially, and the Pac-12 engineering team, alongside with our partners like yourself. The project could not have been successful with this level of synergy and cadence. So, the technology side of it aside and the issues that we faced, and the resolutions that we came up with, I think, all these factors just really make the whole process even more fun. And it is something that we're all very proud of.
And then Hieu, we'll give you the last word as you can, talk about your baby and your pride and joy in your system.
Well, like I said, my final thought, without a partner like ASG and Imagine, I would have thought that we can meet the aggressive timeline, which is, less than a year from the beginning of construction all the way into the commissioning stage and all the way into the on-air dates.